Welcome to my humble little office. My name is Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 20th, 2023 at approximately 4:27 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. With this in mind, today we're going to end up talking about zero-point energy, how to identify it, how to work with it, and how to actually put it to use in your own day-to-day life. Now, before I get started on it, however, I've got a couple of things I do have to address. Number one, Nightmare is in here with the gold. Welcome aboard, Nightmare. Adam has joined us with the silver. And then we have Eternity coming in with the bronze, and Kimberly just snuck through the gate here with honorable mention. Now let's see if I can get this other neat little thing up and running. My days are usually, to say the least, a little scrambled. Okay, something about not having the organizational capacity of a teabag in a tempest. However, we will make it through it. Let us just see if we can go here. This way, I can actually read the messages in the chat room. But as per usual, running through things at the last minute, as it were. Something to really look at. Here we are. I just did the assessment. We only have 9 pictures left to do. Well, let's not do that. 9 pictures left to do 4 races of the world. Okay, so while I'm getting that done, and that takes, according to my artist, about 2 weeks to get every 5 done. So we're looking at about a month down the road. With that in mind, we are doing a lot of reworking, a lot of addition to the information database we already have. Hey, Joe, how you doing? Glad you could join us. There has been a lot of work going down. I've had a staggering amount of change happening in my world. And I'm presuming that your guys' world has been busier than all get out. Now, when we look at zero-G energy, scratch that. If you have questions, guys, even if they are not in the topic we are talking about at the time, just pop them into the chat room, but please do me a favor. Put them in all caps. That way I can actually find them. I know it's a weird idea, but all caps to me does not mean yelling. Okay, it just means you're waving your hand to say, hey, I'm here. Okay, so with this in mind, zero-point energy, I've mentioned to you before, it is the energy that connects everything in existence, all the way from the subquantum and smaller, by the way, up to and including the macroverse. Okay. Now, with this in mind, it's time we actually start seriously looking at changing the way our world has been going. Okay, because I don't know about you, but I'm not impressed with the way that it's been sidetracked. And I'm not about to sit here and tell people that it's all the elite's fault, or it's all the elite's fault, or it's all the government's fault, or it's all the rich people's fault. This is not the way it works. Okay, you think about it. You're looking at maybe, maybe 5% of the population works for the government directly in some capacity. Now, are we going to sit back and go, okay, 5% of the population of the planet is in the governing body? Are we going to sit back and go, okay, they're the government, Therefore, they're responsible for every other person, the other 95%. This is where logic starts to elude me. It doesn't make sense to me that we should be blaming everybody else. Because I don't know about you, but I cannot I will not blame the government for the miscalculations I've made. Sure, they've made things complicated in a lot of ways. I am looking for... Yes, I have this funny little habit of looking for things that are kind of necessary for my end. Let's go back to R. What do we got here? Song, Space Center, that's not much use. Whole piles of information I don't really require. But, okay, that ain't going to work all that well. So what am I looking for here? Well, I actually know what I'm looking for. We have... Okay, well, that's got me absolutely nowhere. I should really learn to do this ahead of time. What do you think? That's galactic seals, linguistics, art. Definitely not art. I was looking for another one of the pictures I've got, but that obviously isn't going to happen. See, here's the thing. I was doing a bunch of work today. And what do I got here? Not that one. This one. We ended up with 31. Nope, that was done. I ended up getting in excess of 20 things done, accomplished today that I wasn't, that I put on my list. I've still got another 10 or 15 before the end of the night. Henry, how you doing? Glad you could join us. When we look at 0-point energy, okay, I've mentioned this to you before, but we're going to go over it again anyway because I keep getting asked about it. Take your hands, put them palms together. Okay, now separate your hands by a quarter, maybe a half an inch. You're still going to feel something between those hands. Okay, now how you describe it is up to you. I've heard it described in multiple different ways. Okay, the most common one people will talk about is they'll start off by going, well, that's my body heat. Okay, but when you concentrate on it, you can build the energy level where you can actually feel a pulse between your hands. Body heat doesn't pulse, it radiates. Okay, so you separate your hands a quarter inch to a half inch apart. Focus on the energy. And just remember, energy, when we are talking about manipulating energy, it does not actually require your hands. This is just the easiest way to describe it. Okay, so you visualize it coming out of your hands because it comes out, it goes both directions. You do not have to rely on a sending hand and a receiving hand. The energy will run both ways simultaneously. Intriguingly enough, it actually doesn't go only two directions. It goes all of them at once. Okay, much like light. When you turn on a light bulb, it fills the whole room. 0-point energy is exactly the same thing. Okay, it works precisely the same way. It radiates in all directions at once, with the one deciding difference. You can control where the majority of that focus is. Okay. But that energy is what connects the living tissue of your body, the inanimate energy of these glasses. Okay. The inanimate energy of what I call my data file. Okay, yes, this is old school. For those of you that don't recognize it, we call it card file. Came along way before the internet did, but I'll guarantee one thing. An electrical pulse will never destroy this. Well, I guess it could. Hit it with a lightning bolt. That's electricity. But as far as you having a short you can have a short in your database. I can't exactly have much of a short in this one. But the energy connecting them is identical. Now, here's the thing. You can feel the energy when you put your hands together. You can feel the energy coming out of both hands, and you'll feel a pulse in all likelihood generating between them. The only difference, the only functional difference that I'm aware of between moving your hand, which is one molecule to the next, and moving an object from the other side of the room, and sorry to disappoint, we're not going to do that yet. We're working on it, mind you. Okay. With that in mind, the only functional difference, we are still dealing with one molecule to the next until you get to your hand. Now, aside from the fact that I still have the same barrier you do, no, I do not pull off telekinetic or psychokinetic, feats in order to entertain people. I have had it happen recently. I just about dropped my coffee on the floor the other day because my cup was sitting on the counter. I brought my hand towards it, and all of a sudden the cup went this direction. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to work well. So I concentrated for a moment. It came back. Do I have it on tape? No. Okay. Do I know exactly how come that day worked and the rest of them haven't? No. But I can tell you that it is something that you can learn to control. You can learn to guide. Now, the thing is, energy does not stop. It does not get destroyed. It gets transmuted. Much like water does not get stopped, it gets redirected. That's what you're working with. The conflict comes because that same 0 point energy is what builds the neural net between all living entities, quite frankly, everywhere, but we'll settle for around the world. So it's not just your will you're striving to alter. It's everybody else's that you're striving to override. If the massive majority believe that gravity will work in a certain fashion, you're going to be hard-pressed to overcome it. Now, if you are striving to test gravity and striving to change that method of doing it, pick a stool, okay? I mean, you take a look at it. You get up on something this big. Okay, that's it. None of this silly thing about I'm going to step off a balcony. Get a stool 1.5 feet tall or so and visualize that energy on you being able to override it. At least that way, if it doesn't work the first time, which is highly probable, you won't cripple yourself when you step off the balcony. When you step off the stool. It's just it's a matter of common sense, which I realize is in extremely short supply in today's world. Okay, now I was, just a real quick point, she'll be in here soon. I was talking to Raven, well, more to the point. Raven sent me a message. We are confirmed. Yeah, well, that's the funny thing. It is the colloquial term is telekinesis there, Joe. The more functional term that I learned a long time ago was psychokinetics, meaning mind over matter. Okay, when you look at psychocellular kinesis, you're talking mind over body. But you are right. Telekinesis is what most people know it as. But as William Shakespeare put it, a rose by any other name will smell as sweet. Okay, whether you call it telekinesis, psychokinesis, mind over matter, it went that way, or as I've heard some people that are older than I am used to call it hullabaloo, aka it didn't add up, it didn't make sense, so therefore it didn't exist. And would that were the case. There's a lot of people that would be in trouble if I could do that. But, as in go, okay, I don't feel like dealing with it, so I'm not going to bother. Okay, so they don't exist anymore. This is not a good way to look at the world, by the way. But does psychokinesis work? The answer is yes. Or does telekinesis work? The answer is yes. Am I the one to prove it? Not a prayer. I do know of a gentleman that I have witnessed firsthand take his hand and set a shockwave up on that you could actually visibly see on the surface of a glass of water. Okay, and I mean literally just putting his hand there. Now, here's the thing, and I'm not gonna do it because it takes way too much concentration just yet. But now, don't worry about the color of it. That's got soap in it. That's for painting. What I'm looking at though is take a glass of water. Okay, a clear glass. Okay, you take a clear glass of water, and that energy I was talking about. Okay. Now, obviously, considering I don't have the tools to do it with, I don't think. Wonder if I can do that. Let's just see something a little odd here. Just dawned on me, I might be able to do something sort of, depending on what the camera does with it. But thing with energy is you can work with it. You can figure it out. It just takes a little bit of time on occasion. Now let's just see if this works. If this is long enough, I can do it. But I don't know, it's not even long enough there. And besides that, the bar itself is long enough. So let's not do that. So, in any event, yeah, I'd have to put that all the way across the room. You take a glass of water. Okay, I'm sure you guys can piece this one together. Take a clear glass, not a coffee cup, unless your coffee cup is clear, because you want to be able to see what happens inside it. Okay. You take the glass of water, take a toothpick, and just very carefully, and let's hope it floats. It doesn't always. There we go. You let it float in the water. Okay. Now, because of the fact that energy, 0-point energy will run through, it will pass through solid objects, because there is nothing stopping it. Good afternoon, Chad. Glad you could join us. Okay. Once you've got the toothpick in the water, take the energy in your hands. Get that energy bubble flowing. You pull your hands apart while you're still able to feel that pressure. Okay. No, the water wasn't. In all fairness, the water itself there was, indeed, was or has. It actually has Dawn soap in it because I use it for cleaning my paintbrushes. Okay. So yeah, that's what I keep talking about here. Once in a while, I'll say, I got to move that before I drink it. See, this water isn't clear either, but this is much better for me. Okay. Because this has got coffee in it. No, I'm not spilling it out for you. But you get your hands separated where you can still feel the energy between them. Now, I can put my hands together like this far apart and just instantly I can feel the energy. But get the energy running, okay, so that you can get your hands wide enough, put your hands on either side of the glass of water. Concentrate on that energy still coming out. Okay. But with that toothpick floating in the water, you can actually get it to move. Now, this is something that, frankly, I'm starting to work with, but no, I cannot prove it at this point, so I'm not about to. How you doing there, Shadow? Glad you could join us. So what I'm looking at this point, this is just one of the things that you can do to see it at work. Okay. You'd lose there, Terry, at least at this point. I know I can do it. I've got memories as a childhood. Like Terry's just going, I bet Keith can levitate a car with his mind. I've actually stopped it with my mind, it would turn out. I used to drive a car and drove it for months. Didn't know it didn't have brakes, but it stopped fine. I got immediately told by somebody that I must have been extremely grounded by the time I got home. The reality of it is, when I'm working with energy, the last thing I intend to do is turn it into a card trick, as it were. There's a lot of people out there that can do this. There's a magical way, stage mage, okay, that can do this sort of thing without a problem. I'm looking for it from a practical standpoint, because there are times when you go to reach something and it's just not quite long enough. You just don't have quite the right reach. But when you get your hands around that glass of water, okay, take your hands so they're not directly across from each other. If you turn them just a little while you're still feeling the energy go, okay, you will be able to. And I know, like I said, I've seen this done by somebody else, okay. And the way I look at it, if one person can do it, we all can do it, okay. Now, yes, my mind is built in a very odd fashion, but give it a shot. Moving a toothpick on water is not a danger to anybody, at least not as near as I can tell. I mean, if you can get it up doing what a tornado does, yeah, then it becomes an interesting problem. Okay, but one of the big things that we have to look at here is when we're looking at modifying the way this world is running, it is absolutely critical that we come to the realization that it is more an issue of pooling our energy, okay, working together. This is why the so-called First Nations used to gather in rings, okay, and they dance in a circle, because it got the energy between them running smoothly. Okay, this is just one of the things that you can do. Now, that same energy is exactly what I used to repair this arm. Okay, this arm on March 3rd of 04. Okay, March 3rd of 04, I snapped it so bad, they had to bolt it back together. But using that same 0-point energy that I'm talking about, okay, only in this case, I used the chakras on the end of my fingers, okay, to build the energy level. So that when I did it, I built the energy up on the fingertips and then pointed them together so I could feel them. Okay. Then I just did the exact same thing, put the energy around the outside of my arm. Now, this is one that, if you know how to get a hold of medical records, is documented. Not that I did this, but the fact that it took me only 9 days to heal the bone. Okay, not 9 weeks, not 9 months, and it certainly wasn't 9 hours. Okay, would that I had a healing rate similar to Wolverine's, but I am referring to the Marvel comic character. Okay, but this is one of those things that you can do. Now, the same maneuver, putting your hands on either side of the water, has been used to purify water. Okay, to knock all of the iniquities out of it. Okay, this is one of those practical uses that we all have the capacity to utilize. We all have the ability to put it to work. It's not something that is relegated to just priests, to just the elite, or just the politicians. This is something that the lowest paid individual on the planet, the person in the worst health, can actually implement. I'm a firm believer, if I'm going to work with tools for people and go, this is how to do it, it is not going to be based on, are you better than somebody else? It may have a problem where we come into discussing it, where understanding the terminology or the methodology may be challenging. This does not mean that it cannot be done. Okay, this is one of those situations where we have to look at it as a unified species. And I know, unified human species, almost incompatible. But you'll notice the number of people in this room, okay, are all from different walks of life. Okay. I mean, you take some of the people in here, we've got long haul truckers. I don't even know where I would begin with trucking aside from I gotta get into the cab. Of course, getting into the cab isn't so bad as getting out. Getting out of the cab, I take one step, the knee buckles, I hit the floor, no problem. I'm out. Okay. But there are people in this room from a lot of different walks of life. The fact that we can all get along says that, at least for short periods, everybody can get along. You just have to quit pointing the finger at everybody else and going, this is, it's all somebody else's fault. Or, there's no way I could do that. That person's something special. Every single thing I'm doing, every one of them, okay, I am absolutely certain you can do, and then so much more. Okay, the fact of the matter is, I can explain most of it to some degree. I cannot understand it for you. And I certainly cannot prove you have the capacity to change your life. Okay, all I can do is say, here it is. If you haven't done this, give it a shot. Okay, now with that in mind, okay, we take that 0 point energy. And yes, I have used it myself to start a dead car. Okay, I've used it to start my own heart back up, which was a neat trick, but don't try that one at home. Okay, the fact of the matter is, when you take a look at it, I love the way that the American military put it. The difficult we're already doing. The impossible simply takes us a little longer. Okay, I'm living proof that the so-called medical impossibilities can be accomplished. Okay, now I do caution you, it is imperative, unless you know how to bypass the whole problem, it is absolutely imperative. If you have a problem medically, you're better off talking to a doctor than trying to figure it out on your own. Okay, I just got a real weird setup with doctors. And much more importantly, since they don't know how to deal with me, my trusting them becomes a bit of a problem for me personally. Okay, I just got finished talking to my son this morning about the fact he has to set up an appointment with a doctor. Okay, it's absolutely imperative he does. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. If you've got a medical thing that you're striving to work on, now I've listed off a couple of things I haven't been able to do. Thus far, I'm still trying to figure out how to get my teeth to rebuild. I know it's possible. Okay, my eyesight, I only wear these when I'm working on the computer. I wear these ones when I'm working on the computer when I'm close up. This set, if I'm trying to watch a movie on the other side of the room. Other than that, I don't wear my glasses at all anymore. And it used to be if I held my glasses that close, I couldn't physically see them. It was impossible. Okay, I could look at them and go, I can feel them here, and I'd be reaching out and going, well, where are they? This is not the same thing as putting them on your head and forgetting you put them there. Okay, because let's face it, I put my glasses up on my head, I'm not seeing them with my eyesight anyway. But 0 point energy can be used. These are just a couple of things you can use it for. Do not take my word for it. Give it a shot yourself. Okay? You can use it for self-healing. Okay? controlling your own metabolic system, your blood pressure, your pulse, your heart rate. Okay, you can even utilize it to dampen the sound you're picking up. Okay, you can use it for healing. You can use it for healing other people, for purifying water. Now, do understand something very critical. This is not intended as an emergency medical technique. It takes time, and especially if you're dealing with something as complicated as poison, relying on energy work to maintain, to balance it out, isn't necessarily your wisest move. You know, if that makes any sense. So we are looking at that side of it. Okay, there is a staggering amount of things you can do and that you can utilize it for. Now, I've used it to literally to start a vehicle engine, to stop a vehicle from moving. A vehicle I was driving, by the way. Okay, because as it turned out, the one vehicle I'm referring to, I didn't have brakes at all. There were no pads, no springs, no shoes, no calipers. There was nothing. And yet, because I didn't know better, as in I didn't know that they didn't exist, the car braked beautifully for me. Okay, these are things. Now, I will tell you this. That worked great for me. But if you're having trouble with your car, for pity's sakes, deal with it on a practical level. 0 point energy is wonderful. It really is. Okay, you can use it to override a lot of things. But the material world still relies on material input. Now, I should have done this earlier and frankly got a little sidetracked with necessities of life. But who do we see come in here? I did see there's Chad and Chad here. There we are. Now, guys, this is the link to Chad's room. You know, to Chad's YouTube channel. Drop in, give him a look. If you like what you see, you know, if you like what you hear, absolutely give him a thumbs up and subscribe to his channel. Okay. And then we have here, where is Shadow? Shadow, here we are. This is Shadow and Son's YouTube channel. That came out really well, didn't it? So we paste that there, and the same goes with Shadow and Son. Now, here's the thing. Okay. If you like this stream, absolutely a thumbs up is really appreciated. Okay. I'm not sure what's been going on. Maybe I'm paying too much attention to the minutia of what's going on. But I'm looking here. Shrink that. Yeah, we're down in the last 2 days. I'm down 4 subscribers, which in all fairness isn't much. Okay, we're talking about being down less than 1%. I'm not worried about it. Like I said, my whole focus on the actual number of subscribers is because when I hit that point of 1,000, that's when I can start generating a little bit of an extra income. And I will tell you, kind of a necessary thing in today's world. Now, I'm going to ask you guys to remind me. I don't know if she put it. I wonder if she did. Where are we here? Just taking a look at something here because Raven sent me an interesting email today regarding confirming what was going on. I'm just seeing if she actually has her channel here. And since it is not readily visible, okay, I'm going to wait for her to get in and give us go ahead before I post it in here. But I will be going on Raven's show on Wednesday of this week. And when was that? 7 o'clock, I do believe. Yeah, 7 o'clock p.m. PST, which will put it about 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast. Okay, but the nice part about the whole thing with 0 point energy is if you can imagine it doing something, you can actually program it to do so. I think she does. I just haven't got it. I was just looking at her email there, Shadow. And, since I don't have it readily available, I'm going to wait to talk to her and just make sure. But if you guys can do me a favor and remind her that when she gets in, just in case I miss her, that there is this missing site. See, that can be closed. Well, minimized is more to the point. The reality is, it is this idea of working with each other that is going to turn this world around. Now, we are in a bad way. There's no question there. But we got to remember, politicians know politics. Okay? UFO investigators, some of them know what they're doing. The ones that, I listen to some people, I've listened to some investigators that go, all aliens are evil. I'm like, that's painting reality with one massive brush. Okay? Because some of my best friends are not from this planet. Okay? I will tell you, some of the individuals just put it on download. I wonder if it'll work. I haven't tried this before, so I'm going to. If we go to, let us open this and see what happens. Drake. I don't know if this will happen, guys. So we're just going to have to see. Call that picture up. And copy that picture and see if that'll let me do it. Okay, wonder if that worked. I don't think it did. Nope, doesn't look like it. We go and paste that in there. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's not what I need. That ships it. I was hoping that was going to work, but apparently I still have the same problem. So that's okay. We'll bring that back down where I'm not looking over my shoulder here or over my head. Okay, well, that didn't work as well as I would have liked. But because it didn't, we'll just have to deal with it. I'm still trying to figure out how to get these pictures to you guys, but they are coming. When we're dealing, like I said, 0 point energy will do all sorts of things. What it really does have a bad habit of doing, though, because it is an energy form, and it will affect computers. Okay, which is one of the reasons why I'm a little reluctant to do a lot of things with it. Okay, because I don't know about you, but I screw up my computer, and I'm in a big bad way. But with that in mind, what do we got here? Hey YJ, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, YJ's just going. Yeah, I've been lurking and driving. I would rather you pay more attention to the driving thing than to the lurking thing. In all fairness, I remember years ago I got handed a real transcript concerning driving. It was just absolutely priceless in a lot of ways. But this guy, and this was a real transcript from a real courtroom. Guy had been charged with vehicular manslaughter. Okay, or with vehicular murder rather. Okay, and the judge asked him, how do you plead? The guy looks at him and goes, "I'm innocent." The judge says, how can you be innocent? He says, I didn't mean to run over the kid. Right? It was an accident that I ran over him. Okay, and the judge is saying there, you call it an accident. And the guy goes, absolutely, it was absolutely unintentional. Sir, the child was sitting on his couch in the living room. I realize that, Your Honor, but it was an accident. How could it be an accident, sir? He was on the couch in the living room. You ran over him. Yes, I did, Your Honor. I fully admit to the fact I ran over the child, but it was an accident. I did not intend to hit the kid. I didn't see him. I was going after his mother. Now, somehow this didn't really get the guy off the hook where it came to the kid, to the problem. Kind of corrected the problem with the kid. But 0-point energy will not yet alter the way things go. However, the Mobians who originated on Earth 40,000 years ago had 0-point energy down to a fine art. Okay, they would think about it and they would have that item in their possession. And then their belief in it, coupled with the belief and the support of other people, the acceptance of other people, that item was now maintained essentially in perpetuity. Okay, by the belief of the entirety of the society. Now, our world has a bit of a different problem. Every time somebody runs into a hiccup, one person runs into a hiccup, we immediately go, everybody's got to correct the problem for that person. Don't teach them to deal with it. Okay. Just make sure they never have to deal with it, unless it doesn't suit you. Now, a prime example of this was when my eldest was in elementary school. One kid in the school proved to be allergic to kiwi. Net result, instead of the parents and the teachers and the doctors going, let's teach the kid, don't go near that stuff, and let's educate the other students to stay away, to not bring kiwi around him. What they turned around and did in their almighty wisdom is they banned kiwi from the entire school. Okay, we have this same problem being replicated today. Now, when people realize that we all have the ability to modify reality at our own drive, with our own actions, our own thoughts, that's where zero-G energy can become extremely useful. Now, think, if you will, if one person, now this stunt that I showed you with the water, okay, that maneuver with the water can be done with a candle flame as well. Okay, but the trick with a candle flame is to put it inside a clear tube. Okay, so you light the candle, set the tube down over top of it, make sure it's got at least 4 to 6 inches above the top of the candle to make sure that you don't get a cross current. Light the candle and then focus that same energy without touching the sleeve. Focus that same energy on the candle and on making it waver. Okay, the reason for the extra 4 to 6 inches is so that just by breathing, you're not likely to move the candle. Okay, this is another thing that you can work with. Absolutely agree with you there, YJ. The reality of it from my standpoint is this. The child, I know people have allergies to things. Okay, I understand that. As a young child, the child is not necessarily going to have the wherewithal to avoid complications. Okay, so they need the support of the other adults, kids, and students around them. This is, like it was said years and years ago, it is not, where we're talking about raising a kid, it is not just a one-person job. a single set of parents do not raise a child. The entire community gets involved. Okay, because the entire community is going to be affected by that child's behavior and by that adult's behavior. But if you are not encouraged to take responsibility for your own actions, for your own thoughts and your own words, then there is going to be a problem. Okay, now this problem in the schools was 20 years ago. Okay, the one that I personally went through. Here we are today, and people are now starting to go, I don't like the name of this item. It's no longer, I'm allergic to this. I don't like this name. I don't like this word. So it needs to be banned because you're upsetting, 6 people on a planet that has 8 billion people. So we're going to modify the English language or whatever spoken language it is that's happening in, because I'll virtually guarantee that it's not just happening in English-speaking worlds. Okay, in communities that speak French, that speak Hindi, that speak Punjabi, that speak German, French, whatever, they all have the same renditions. And that is the whole cast there, YJ. The school, and I do blame my generation for amplifying the problem that already existed, because it used to be in schools you were taught how to do you were taught basic medical, basic first aid. You were taught how to think, not what to think. Okay, now 0 point energy has the capacity to alter the thinking around the people around you. And yes, the term for that is telepathy. Okay, another term for it, if you're looking at rewriting somebody else's cranial capacity, you're talking about psychic surgery. All of it is doable. And this is why the off-worlders are a little concerned with the way humans are. Because humans have the capacity to modify reality just by their sheer will. Okay, and sheer will does not, by the way, mean I don't believe it, therefore you shouldn't be allowed to. Okay, everyone has free will. Everyone has free choice. What you don't and what nobody has is freedom from consequence. Okay, now there's a lot of things that we talk about doing, that people complain about. Oh, we shouldn't have this, we shouldn't have that. Now, I know I've got people living over in England right now. Okay, they're listening in. And I would love to hear if this is correct. I heard something a while ago. See, in Canada, you pay, $2 or $3 for a head of lettuce. Okay, and you pay less than $1 for a chocolate bar. And then people wonder why the people that don't have the cash flow are eating garbage food. What I heard was over in Great Britain, your chocolate bars are $5 for a chocolate bar and only $1 or so for a head of lettuce. You see the reversal? If you make it less expensive so people can afford to eat decent food, they will. If for no other reason, then it's all they can afford. Okay, that's one of the things that we have to get around. That we've got to bring on track. And if if people start realizing, people start acting on the idea that we can make this a better world for virtually everybody, okay, then things can turn around quite nicely. I'm going to have to go back because I noticed the chat room has gotten real quiet as of late. So I'm going to ask you guys directly. Okay, are there topics that you guys feel would be very beneficial that a lot more people are interested in taking a look at? Okay, The reason being, from my standpoint, yeah, I'm sitting on a lot of information, a lot of different topics. It's a question of which ones are the most in demand, if you will. Okay. It's literally a question of making certain that we can get to the people that require the assistance. Okay. Hence why I put it out to you guys. Now, right about now, I just gotta go over here because I can't remember for the life of me. Okay. Right about now, we're looking at that today. Tomorrow, we are going to be looking at the elementals, and I am referring to earth elementals, water elementals, and fire elementals. Okay, I'm not talking about the Fae. The Fae is a whole different ballgame. Okay, that'll be on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we are going to talk about how to prepare mentally and emotionally, not legally. Sorry, I'm not the legal director here. Okay. Okay, but I am looking at it from the standpoint of we're going to look at how to cope with the sudden passing of someone that you like or don't like. And by the way, I have seen it done. Okay. Hey, Kimberly, how are you? Yeah, we've got 7 people in the chat room. 7 people are registered. But how many are showing up as in the chat room? There's no way I know of to figure out how many are listening in. I know there's got to be a way because the radio stations do it all the time. But we are going to be in the on Friday, Wednesday. Wednesday we're going to be looking at how to prepare for the passing of somebody that you like. Okay, a loved one or a friend or whatever. This applies to how do you deal with a pet passing away. They are simply, in my opinion, 4-legged fuzzy kids. Okay, now I have seen it. Matter of fact, I saw it one day. Absolutely priceless. It was bizarre. I told this woman that her husband was dying, and I tried being nice about it and couldn't quite figure it out. Okay. I was talking to her and I mentioned to her husband was dying. And I kid you not, this woman stood up in the middle of a crowded room and she goes, "Yes." And I'm sitting there going, okay, I quit with the idea of trying to figure out who's happy about what. Okay. Yeah, the ironic, I don't doubt that at all. And that's the one topic I'm not going to get into. Not very much. I touch on it very rarely. YJ's just saying, I think, well, we'll start with the other thing. Kimberly has suggested that we talk more about the psychic stuff, the afterlife, trapped souls, that sort of thing. And YJ is saying so many people are paying attention to what's going on in the current world. Okay. And the problem with that, like, I'm not going to be paying attention to the current events for one reason. Okay. All the negative things happen. Do not get me wrong. And you need to know they're there. But putting them on the front page where everybody's worried about everything falling apart, we're going to have massive food shortages, etc. It does not make sense to put that information out if you're not going to put out a counterbalancing point on how to cope with it. Okay. Because if all you're doing is spewing out the garbage, all you're actually doing is inciting fear, inciting chaos, this sort of thing. Doesn't work that well in my eyes. Okay. And that's why I don't go into the heavy duty current events. I don't watch it for a lot of reasons. I'm presuming you're referring to take a look at the current events and use that in how to take a look at what's going on with the current events and talk about how to cope with what they're actually putting out there. Okay, I presume that's what you're referring to there, Kimberly. Hey, Senior Pent, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Okay, yeah. No, the reason I asked, I wasn't thinking of it from the preppy side of things, but a lot of people that talk about prepping, they're talking about how to prepare for a natural disaster. What you need to do to make your house safe. That part of it, I'm a little bit offhand. Okay, now I'm just going to take a look here. What do we got? Okay, I'm just making a list here because, like I said, it really boils down to a question of making absolutely certain I find out what is going to get people's attention, because while I've got people's attention, we can pass on the other information. We can help and set things in motion to help each other. Okay, so let us take a look at this. Now, I've already got a couple of things set, but I don't want to alter that again. Being out for dang near a week because my whole family life went to pot. Not the type that I used to smoke. So we will take a look at mediumship and how it works from the side of the ghost. Okay. We can absolutely do that. I've been a working medium only since I was born, but, well, actually, in all fairness, way before that. What do we got here? Henry is saying, I'd like to know more about the nature of souls. That one we can deal with. Okay. Ironically, it's actually somewhat tied to the other one. Okay. And of course, we've got this idea that Kimberly put out about dealing with preparation for what the mainstream media is telling us is coming, i.e., we're set for huge famine shortages. We've got major land problems. How do we deal with this? In a nutshell, it's actually not that hard to deal with it, providing we start working together and let go of the idea that if somebody's got more money, they're more valuable than another. Okay. Joe's just going, okay, here's a topic that question we ask ourselves all the time. What if? Well, yeah, we can throw that one. What if I had done things differently? I will tell you, it's a wonderful concept, but I look at it and go, what if people all of a sudden decided, what if everybody across the world all of a sudden decided, I don't care what the government says, I'm not picking up a gun. I'm not shooting anybody except for protecting life and protecting my life here, or hunting, as in getting food. But this idea, this whole fight about we need to make gun laws. Guns don't cause a problem. Anybody can take a gun, and if it's properly loaded and set gently on the table, if nobody touches it, that gun isn't going to do a thing. It's the same as vehicles aren't the problem. It's the people that are operating them. Okay. In all fairness, Carl, that's what we were in. This is just where things went. But 0 point energy is the connective energy between all matter, all existence. Doesn't matter where you are in the third dimensional reign, where you are. Well, in all fairness, it doesn't matter where you are. But whatever exists in the third dimension, whether it is moving at a higher pace so you can't viably see it, as in oxygen, moves way too fast for mankind to see. But 0 point energy links it all together. Okay. When you take a look at it, they say thinking about something is as bad as doing it. Well, if that were the case, this world would be a barren wasteland. Okay, it would be an absolute shambles. How do I know this to be an absolute certainty? It's because I went and wrote this. Okay, I wrote about the world going to heck in a handbasket. And I'm not the only one. There are a staggering number of phenomenal authors that have written stories, written songs, made movies of the world coming to an end. Okay, in all kinds of fashions. You notice a lot of people are still here. Okay, and I don't know about you, but much as I do see a lot of similarities between the zombie apocalypse and people hanging on to these things, I've literally watched people looking at this and staring at the wall and walking into a wall. But 0 point energy is what connects it all. Okay. Now, just continuing down this for half a second. I'm looking at, like, there's a lot of things going on that the moment you start thinking about, and you are right there, Carl, I think. Hate that. My memory works so well. Come back down here. Yeah. When you think about it, Carl, if we choose to look at what's going on in the world and we go, okay, that's not working well, it is time to start shifting gears. What if people just start saying, okay, the world is in trouble. Okay, our civilization is in trouble. What if we put our differences aside, quit finding new ways to separate ourselves from each other, okay, and stop with the things that directly affect the way civilization is running, just because one person doesn't agree with it, and that's how bad it's getting. Okay, I just about fell off my chair when I found out that there is a movement going on right now. There's a collection of people that are pushing to have the term blacktop changed. So we can't refer to blacktop as blacktop because calling it a color is offending this small group of people. Now, this to me is taking the idea of individuality to an extremely dangerous level. Okay, but do understand something. Once you think about something and you put that energy out there, the energy doesn't care who originated it. It doesn't care who it's going to affect. It just goes and does what it's put in motion. If you take a rock and you drop it and you let go of it over top of a puddle of water, the rock doesn't care about the side effect, and the water isn't going to worry one iota about what's on the shore. Okay, it is simply going to respond. 0 point energy works exactly the same way. You put the thought in motion, and it will not worry one way or the other what you're up to or what your intention was. It won't try and sort out whether you were just joking or not. Okay, if the energy, let's see here, just going down here. The neat little part of what's happening, like YJ's just going here. I don't see it as negative. For example, I'm paying attention to what's happening with the economy and banks and planning my finances. My finances, what did that again, did it? My finances and land deals accordingly, setting myself up not to fail. Well, the reality is this, okay, people on the whole do not actually plan to fail. On the whole, what it is people do not and then what they do is they fail to plan. Okay, and this is another thing that we can absolutely talk about. Understand a lot of this stuff, quite frankly, it affects me as much as it does you. Okay. Now, Kimberly, that is actually an excellent question, and we're just going to add that to it. Kimberly's just said, are our lives already planned, or are there detours? The planning takes place before you're ever born. Okay. When you're looking at before you become a corporeal, okay, you decide And this is literally, you tap into the 0 point energy before you ever get here. Okay, you delve into the quantum realm and you go, okay, I'm coming back to the physical world. Okay, that's a choice I've made. I'm coming back here to learn. Where the planning comes in, and the easiest one I can lay out. Okay, when you look at cancer, for instance, you're coming in to learn to deal with cancer. Now, that's the overall goal. That's the dream board. The decisions you make, the experiences you choose to walk into, or the circumstance puts you into because of the planning that you did, will determine whether or not you develop cancer or you end up going in and helping people deal with it, as in treating people in hospice, becoming a cancer specialist, okay, whatever it is. This is where the detours are. The plan is to experience cancer. Whether or not you take it on directly, that's up to you. And absolutely, Henry. Henry just goes, when you get small enough, everything is made up of energy. Okay, and it really is. Like I mentioned the other day. Okay, we quantify things with labels. It's that simple. Okay, so when we start talking about things like quantum energy, we talk about the periodic table and periodic table of elements. We talk about my necessary cup of coffee. We are talking about labels for things that we're feeling, okay, or that we're experiencing. This is the way communication works. But you've got to be on the same page, as in desirous of changing the way your world is working. Okay. Myself, it's simple. I've got one heck of a mess financially. Next lifetime, I'm telling you, I can't prove it to you guys. We'll have to wait till next. Okay. But I'm fully gearing things so I can be born into a high level of income. Okay. Where I will have the capacity to turn around and use that to benefit other people that are not quite so lucky. I do it now. I just don't have the cash flow. It was funny. Somebody the other day really desired to pick up a copy of this. So they sent me the money, told me they sent me the money, right? But they had typed the email address wrong. Okay. I could not have been happier with them. When they told me what had happened, I turned around. I said, I'm going to send a copy out to you. And hopefully I said, I'm trusting you to sort things out. Well, the person turned around. As soon as their money cleared again, they sent the money. This is the ultimate issue of 0 point energy. Okay. You make up your mind. You claim you're going to do something. Follow it through with action. Okay. Because quite frankly, you're only as good as your last word. Okay, if you've given your word that you're going to do something, make it happen. 0 point energy reacts to your intention. Not so much to your word, but to your intention. Hey Nathan, how you doing? Uh-oh. You be careful there, Nathan. No point in getting hurt while you're working. And I do believe the appropriate term for you there, Nathan, is keep it quantum. But when we are looking at 0 point energy, the moment you start thinking about things, okay, the moment you start putting energy into it. Yeah, I do not argue that point at all. Nathan's just put in the chat room here, your 0 point energy is my quantum link. As I was saying, the name isn't necessarily the issue. This is one of the reasons why I actually can connect with Nathan in certain ways. Because we literally see that kind of energy flow running the same way. But the moment you start thinking about it, if you put out energy and you make a comment, and you put the inflection properly in it, okay, you can get a joke that other people will get. But this idea that people have of insulting somebody or embarrassing them and then, and hurting their feelings intentionally, and they call it pranking. This is not intended to be funny for anybody but the person sending it, and by the person doing it, and those people that enjoy watching other people suffer. My biggest problem with pranks is I always end up looking at it from the standpoint of the person that's getting pranked. And if your energy is to spread that kind of news, and this is why I say, when you see something on the net that says, here's the problem we have. Okay, like a prime example, and I do agree with you there, Kimberly. Okay, one of the biggest things that we have to look at is we've got this system set up that is absolutely botched. Okay, I just saw I just saw a little news blurb just today, I think, maybe yesterday, that said within the next 20 years, the United States will not be able to produce enough food for people to survive. Period. They just won't be able to do it. And yet, the legislation in place right now, 2 weeks ago, roughly, I heard of one dairy farmer that is forced to dump 1,500 gallons of milk because he's not allowed to produce that much. Sad part is nobody bothered telling the cow. Now, if we continue supporting these kinds of laws, what we're going to do is exactly what has been forecast. A massive famine that nobody can cope with. Okay, and rest assured, if you've got lots of money, it'll buy you a little more time, but you're still going to end up in the same boat. Okay, this has been repeated throughout history. I do agree with you there, but here's, Kimberly's just saying people should learn to grow their own food, buy oats and canned meat, learn how to can food, dehydrate. This is something that used to be taught. Okay, but here's the counterpoint to that. In California, last I heard, the politicians, for whatever reason, made it illegal to collect rainwater. Now, this has got to be one of the most ridiculous laws that's been passed in a very long time. Now, hopefully it's been overturned by now. Okay, but last I heard, it hadn't been. Okay, when you start trying to legislate how Mother Nature works, it ain't going to work well. Henry, I agree with that concept, that the people in government have got to know what they're up to. But, now, understand the one big problem, like Kimberly, here's one on my end. I have tried for 10 years now, all sorts of different ways of doing it, to grow anything on my patio. Okay, on my patio outside, on my balcony rather. I am on a ground floor apartment. Okay, I have tried growing things in my house. I've tried growing them on the deck outside. For me, it just does not work. I can kill an air plant in 3 days. Okay, so I'm kind of hooked on that one. And that is absolutely fantastic. And this is what I'm referring to about the smaller communities. If we start things with the smaller communities, okay, you can actually, this whole mess can be turned around. But we've got to start working as a society. We've got to start eliminating the things that are causing the problem. And no, let's not go with the human race. Okay, I mean, granted, the human race is causing a lot of the problem. But this is where communication comes in very necessary. Now, quite often, like when I'm cooking at home, And I only, in all fairness, I've only started cooking again in the last month and a half, 2 months. Okay. But, I'm teaching myself how to do that again. And getting back into the canning side, that I can do. The drying is easy. As a matter of fact, that reminds me. I just picked up a batch of onions I've got to dry to make them work right. Or more to the point, to make them grow and make them last longer. But when you've got community groups that are working together, this is the way to make the world work. Okay. This idea of going, oh, I don't relate to that. I don't identify as that type of person. Okay. Or you're a different color than I am, therefore you're not worth as much. Okay. And people wonder why. They go, when are the off-worlders going to come back down here and help? If they're interested in our well-being, when are they going to come down and help? Okay. Or the other one I got handed just yesterday, a chap asked me point blank when God was going to come down and admit that he made a mistake and wipe us all out. Okay, well, number one, he didn't make a mistake, and number two, he's not on his way down. Okay, he's not going to be wiping anybody out. Okay, but we do have the capacity to change this world, working, because the more people working on the same pattern. Okay, you think about it. One person wants to move a 500 pound, we'll try English. One person, I don't know how much they weigh, but one person wants to move a complete wheel of wheat. Okay, they're not moving it anywhere. It's just not happening. Best case scenario best likely case scenario is they push on it, they get it to start rolling a little, then they lose their grip and it rolls back over top of them. This is not a good outcome. But when you pool the energy, when more than one person works on the same project, you can move mountains. You can change the tide, and you can change the path that a river is flowing. Okay, these things can be altered. And that's what we got to realize. We've got to start looking at this world from the standpoint of, are we going to promote the negativity? Are we going to continue listening to people telling you that your world's going to end? You have to do exactly what you're told, or your life is going to be miserable. If you continue going down that road, okay, we are going to have a very simple problem. Okay, and all the prayers in the world aren't going to help. Okay, I heard of, I was talking to one person, we're going to a counselor. Okay, and instead of the counselor going, okay, what's your situation? How can you work with it? Well, what they did was they went, oh, no, you shouldn't be paying any attention to that at all, because God will take care of you. Well, clearly, if God was taking care of this individual, they wouldn't be in the boat they were in. So somebody missed the boat. Okay, like I said, you have free will. You have free choice. What you don't have is freedom from consequence. Okay. So, I mean, the real trick here, and this is one of the primary reasons why I decided that I would stay working with this, is, as it was put to me, finding those few people that will actually start to make things happen. Like in your case, Kimberly, you're working in a community that is making a change where your community has a much higher chance of survival than the ones that don't do it. Okay, now something to be understood. Regardless of whether you're in a small town or a massive city, from my experience, the average person lives their entire life inside a 9-block square area. Okay, and with that in mind, if they live inside a 9-block square area, that's your community. Okay, now I measured it out, I think about 8, so about 2,000. So you're looking really about a 1 mile area. And that is absolutely brilliant there. I presume, Kimberly, that you've already got water purification pills. You know, I'm a firm believer that you should have a stockpile of food in your house, not concerning the world falling apart, just because. Okay. I personally look at, even if everything's going well. Okay. Yeah, the straws work just as well. Whether they're pills or straws doesn't matter. Okay. You know, I'm a firm believer that even if money is flowing freely for you, okay, and food is in abundance, stockpile 2 to 3 months of food. Okay, you should be doing the same kind of an idea. Yeah, this is one of those things. Like Kimberly, you're one of these people that's already got your feet on the ground. And it's people like you that it is really advantageous to the people around you to help spread that kind of information. You know, this world on its current path is going to run into very serious problems. But by utilizing the abilities that humans have of altering reality, we do have the capacity to change the path this world is on. See, I'm currently sitting, I think, on about 2 months myself. Okay, where I'm short, I don't own a generator. Okay, I've got a lot of canned food, a lot of dried food. Okay, and I've got some frozen food, but of course, frozen food has a problem. The moment you have a power outage, you've only got 2 or 3 days of food. Okay, now, am I a prepper from the standpoint of I know all the ins and outs of preparing for the end of the world? No. Of course, in my lifetime, I have been told the world's going to end. Like I've been told probably a dozen times, and usually only a week before it's supposed to be over. I'm going, would somebody give me a little bit of heads up here? You know, but when you look at the energy you've got, okay, you can take that when you're starting to feel tired, that same energy that I was talking about, you can draw that back into yourself and amplify your own energy levels. Okay, now there are limits to what you can do. And this is why you have to practice. You've got to put this to use with the added information, with the added effort. Okay, physically get up and do what's necessary. Okay, because if you don't, the reality is you're the only one that can change the way your world is working. You're the only one that can do it. Get all the support, all the guidance you can from everybody. Absolutely. Pick and choose what works for you. But understand you're the one that's going to have to do it. Yeah. And that's just it. I mean, you know, it's a good thing that when my job all of a sudden collapsed 3 months ago, I was already stockpiled because it ended 3 months ago, and I still have not a great variety of in some cases, but I've got 2 or 3 months still in stock of canned and dried food. Okay, now needless to say, this works out really well. And something just dawned on me that I can actually do. It tastes like garbage, but milk you cannot keep for months. You just can't. It becomes all lumpy and really gross. But there is something called powdered milk that I grew up on. Tastes like garbage, but it does have the same value to it. Okay, but it's one of these things you keep just in case you run into a snag. Okay, which is what I'll be dealing with now that I remembered it. I have no idea what shelf milk is there, Kimberly. I know what powdered milk is. I grew up on the stuff. Of course, back then, powdered milk was only half the price of regular milk. But this is a question of knowing what you see coming and going, I made a mistake here. Okay. I knew my job was going to collapse. I didn't know when, but I knew it was going to. Had I been on the ball, I would have put all the money aside that I needed, that I required then, and let everything else sit. Instead, I didn't do that. So now I'm behind the 8 ball, as it were. Oh, okay. Not milk is the brand. Oh, I take it that's some sort of a nut type byproduct. But you did just point out something that's absolutely brilliant. Okay. And let's face it, my parents, okay, and a lot of your guys' parents and grandparents, they came up with this thing a few months back. They were running into a problem with baby formula. And yet the stores were stocked with Eagle brand milk. Now, Eagle brand milk, kids were raised on. Okay. That's just what we grew up on. Joe, here's the thing. And do what you will. Absolutely. I've encouraged a lot of people to go back to church, to find a community to support them. But if you actually read the Bible, okay, and don't ask me to tell you where, in the Bible, it does tell you point blank that the church raised its arms up under the skies and raised its voice unto heaven above. Now, and I'm paraphrasing, with that in mind, I have never yet seen a building do that. Okay, the church that you need to return to is this one right here. Okay, this is the one that you need to really take attention to. Raven, glad you could join us. Needless to say, I think I emailed you. Okay. Raven, I don't have the link to your YouTube channel if you have one. Okay. But I've already told people that if everything goes well, I will be there on Wednesday. But I don't have an email, a YouTube link from you, if you've even got one. Okay, but no, the church itself is a great place to get. Okay, that explains that in a hurry. You go where you have to get the support you feel is working for you. What I will tell you is it is time that we stop fearing the future. We stop looking to the past and go, well, this happened before, and here we go again. The time for change is now. The time to tap into that energy to make this all happen is right now. Okay. And I will tell you this, and it's just my personal opinion. If you don't agree with it, that's okay. But if you happen to be going to a spiritual guide, a counselor, a church, a temple, I don't care what it is. If they are telling you, just walk away from the physical world, your creator will take care of you, you might want to consider talking to somebody else. Because your creator created the situation so you had the tools to actually take your own life into control, to take responsibility for it. But you're the one that's got to do it. And if your counselor is telling you that, the physical needs are not a requirement, turn to God. God is not fulfilling physical needs on this world. Okay? He really isn't. You take a look at the amount of famine. If God was taking care of it all, guess what? What God did was he said, love thy neighbor as thyself. You have the ability, you have the capacity to tap into that energy around the world and set up communication lines to start working as a global community and turn this world back into the paradise it can be. Okay, but it is up to the individuals, not just the politicians or just the elite. Okay, it's not just up to the religious leaders. It is up to each and every single one of us. Here's the funny thing. You are right there, YJ. Like YJ just said, there's individual change and there's collective change. Unfortunately, the collective change I see happening vastly outnumbers the individual. So I keep leaving my cursor there. So much cognitive dissonance. This is because individuals are being bombarded with all of the negative things going on. Instead of going, here's all this war going on. Here's this famine we got coming along. Okay, people are doing things backwards. Okay, how you doing there, Lacey? Glad you could join us. People are doing things backwards. They're posting all this negativity on the front page of everything, virtually. Okay, mainstream media, on the social media. Okay, it's got to be reported, don't get me wrong. But we've got to start making the mainstream posts the things that you are just in your face. This person got married to that person. This small group of people set up this community garden, and it's working like a charm. It's feeding this much in this big of an area. Okay, these people are coming out of the hospital after having been successfully helped. These are the things that should be in the front page of everywhere. Take the things that are, we've got a famine brewing, put it in the back page. If you really want to know about it and you're not doing your own part, go looking for the stuff. Go looking to see how many people have been killed in a drive-by shooting. Instead of having that on the front page, I would rather see, and maybe I'm a little screwy here. Okay. And this is what we're working on right here, right now, YJ, is this tiny little family that's growing here. We are the ones that are going to be, amongst others that are out there, we're one of those little pocket cells that is going to be able to change this world. Okay. Because you are right. It actually doesn't even take 5 people. I saw a depiction of it on a kind of a cartoon setup, that showed great big line of people. They were all bowed down. Okay. They were all bowed down, and they had this guy at the top standing there with a big pole arm or big staff, and everybody's bowed down. Okay, and on the first panel, everybody's bowed down except one person. Okay. Well, first panel had everybody bowed down. Second panel shows everybody bowed down and one person standing. Okay. And then the third panel, it showed everybody bowed down and a small cluster of people standing. And the fourth panel showed everybody standing up and the guy with the staff was bowed down. Okay. Well, that may well be the case. In all fairness, there's a problem, and I will tell you one massive complication with that. Okay, like YJ's just saying, I see the precursor to such catalyst will be the internet if the internet goes down for a week. Okay, what happens in that first week is you get panic. If we start the catalyst now and we don't wait for the internet to buckle, but we start putting the internet to use to make this happen. Okay. The thing is, if the internet goes down, not only, it'll give people a chance to snap out of it, but fuel production, food production, shelter, all collapses overnight, and you have chaos, panic, pandemonium. The thing that so many people go, oh, what we need is anarchy. I'm thinking, do you have any idea what anarchy looks like? There is such a massive loss that happens when that goes down. Okay, but if we, as this small community, start doing like I'm seeing happen, we start working to make that catalytic converter, as it were, start now, before the net collapses. Sure you will, Raven. You just got to remember that it's actually possible. We did it. We actually did it way before the internet even became a thing. But it will make it more difficult. Okay. And it will certainly make it more difficult to stay connected to any friends that you have around the world. The world relies on the internet now to the point that shutting it down, sure, it would stop the information flow. Okay. The problem is it would also stop the positive connections. Okay. But if we start rallying together, and this is the whole thing. I've got to look at the whole thing I'm doing here. Now, like I said a long time ago, and I say it pretty much at the beginning of every video, I came back here to this world, to this time, for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, the internet does permit people to choose to promote negativity. Absolutely it does. But you have the exact same choice to promote positivity. Okay. And Raven, this is literally directed at you concerning the video or concerning the interview. These two books with the people that you have as primary listeners, these two books are actually both rather useful from that standpoint. Okay. I've got a lot of other ones I'm in the middle of working on. What is it, 34 or 36 now? I think 36 now that I'm actually moving into active production. But these ones about believing in yourself, believing in your business, believing in your spirituality, these are the concepts that are absolutely required. Okay. These are the things that people are being taught to forget. Okay. Turn all of your attention to somebody else. When are the off-worlders going to come down? Okay. When are the off-worlders going to come down and correct this problem? It's not going to happen. The off-worlders are here to protect the planet, not the people. Okay. But yeah, those two will fit very nicely. And I think these two may be a good addition. Okay. And again, I'm looking at the group that you've got. Okay. Is these two books here. Now, as you can see, I can barely see. Where are we here? Oh, that one's open. That ain't going to do you. Okay, we have That's Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns. These, by the way, are children's books. And this one here, just got to get the front cover of it back. And that's the other one. Okay, that's for the books that with your particular set of people will likely be much more readily attached to. Just a thought. Okay, because and I am working on a couple of others. They certainly won't be ready, but I've got the titles laid out for most of them. This is why I said I've got 36. I think 36 books now that I'm in the middle of putting on paper. And it's amazing how many different ones are available. That you were asking about a place to start, and that's a pretty functional one, given the venue that we're looking at. At least in my opinion. Okay. Yes, the novels are definitely something that I do put a lot of effort into. But when we're looking at the audience that you've got that go to your channel, we've got to look at what your channel is actually interested in, why the people are there. Oh, I absolutely agree with you there, Joe. This is one of the reasons why I encourage people not to go that route. Absolutely. Prepare as far as, even if you've got a massive cash flow and all the good health in the world, prepare for a good 3 to 6 month hiccup. I was prepared for almost 6 months. I've been unemployed for 3. I've still got 3 months of food sitting in my cupboard. Okay. Food wise, I'm fine. Cash flow, that's a problem. But in all fairness, I can't eat the cash anyway. Okay. I mean, paper does digest, metal, not so much. So when I look at that, we've got to start putting the internet to use for what it is actually capable of doing. I don't know what the intention of putting it there was. Yeah, Kimberly goes, board games and playing cards will be great. I grew up on those. See, I grew up on Dungeons and Dragons. And the way one psychologist that sat in on a game put it, it's like campfire stories, where one person sets the scene, sets the world up, and everybody else adds their own take on it to make it an interactive game. Okay. I mean, I do have cards, don't get me wrong. You'll get a kick out of these ones. Well, not really. This deck of cards here. Now, of course, we have tarot. Okay. That's not the playing cards I'm referring to. It's these ones here. If I can get them open, that'll always be nice. Like I said, I'm a little twisted. I prefer the best of the best. Okay. I like that idea personally there, Kimberly. Thank you very much. You see the shine on those? These are standard playing cards. Okay. Just normal everyday playing cards. But the reason they're so shiny is these things are gold leaf. Like they are literally, this is pure, I think it's 18 karat gold going down the side of these. I like the finer things in life. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I don't spend money on them if I don't have it. I spend money on other things if I don't have it. The funny thing about it is I take a look at the way that things are at shipping and what have you, where it comes to the writing. Where are we here? Yeah, you really do. That's very true, Joe. If you've got a place that you can handle a fire, this works out well. The neighbors complain when people light fires inside apartment buildings. I mean, it's just kind of funny that way. What doesn't make sense to me, okay, is the number of people, the number of times that we get the reports that, we're having a brownout. In certain areas, we're having a brownout because there's too much energy and there's too much electricity being used. And then these geniuses that are doing this start producing electric cars. Now, there's got to be logic there somewhere, but I'll be danged if I can figure it out. What do we have? Yeah, Kimberly's just saying I have 3 face cords of wood for my fireplace. Now, I understand what a cord is. I've never heard it called a face cord. But yeah, this is just one of those things, and not everybody, people in rural areas, can certainly set up fire, the fire stuff. Okay. People in a non-rural area best be relying on things that are more canned or more dried. But where it comes to energy, and this is why I was referring to when I said it's all connected, you can take, and I've done it where it tastes better. Okay. If you take the energy between your hands and you pull it apart, you separate your hands enough to put your hands on either side of a glass of water, you can make that water taste better by simply adjusting the molecular field. And yeah, I know that sounds completely out of the science fiction world, except I've seen it done in real life. Never mind seen it, I've done it. Okay. So, I mean, there are hiccups that I've got that I haven't figured out how to get around. But I'm looking at a world where we actually have the capacity to make things happen. Where are we here? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd never heard of it called, but thank you so much for clarifying that, Kimberly. I'd always heard that was just called a cord of wood. I'd never heard the term faced before. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I can see where you'd have to put a depth limit. But yeah, if you can get that much wood, okay, I mean, let's face it, you're looking at 4 feet tall. I mean, you're looking at building a fence that's 4 feet tall and 32 feet long, or 24 feet long. Okay. And right there, that's the easiest way to go. How much wood do I need? Well, I believe the old term was how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. But I think that was to do with something else. 4 by 4 by 8 is a measured cord of wood. Ah, perfect. Thank you so much, YJ. I mean, the reality is we are in, society on a global level is in a bad way. There is no question there. But if we start promoting the positive side and the communication side without the pranking, without the who shot who and who murdered what, okay, and, what's no longer permitted, because quite frankly, it doesn't make us enough money. Okay, when people start as a majority doing that, this whole society turns around. Okay, that's when we get to return to paradise. That's when we get a world where you don't have famine, you don't have greed. You will have some, there's no question there. The famine you can override. The greed, some people come in here to experience greed. And if the people that came in to experience greed didn't come here, you as individuals wouldn't know what greed was. That's just the reality of it. But it boils down to realizing that when you take the energy you're feeling and you start focusing that on your directions, like on your intentions. Where did I put it? Of course, I probably put it down someplace out of reach. Just looking for what it was. There. Nope. I do like when I pick a sheet of paper up and move it somewhere else so I can't find it anymore. That always works so well. Oh, I think I put it over there. Come on. Yeah. I don't know, man. Oh, there we are. Figured it would be around here somewhere. When I got up this morning, I put a list together. Okay. I started off and it's like, okay, put 3 down. Well, as I'm putting them down, I hit 33 just like that. I've got 33 things on my list. I've gone through half of them, and I've got lots of time to go through the others before the end of tonight. It boils down to a very simple issue. Take the energy that is up here. When it gets to both your mind, your head, and your heart, you put it to use. Combine that energy with the energy of those around you of a similar mind, and we can move mountains. We can change the direction this world is going on. It's traveling down right now. And we do not have to worry about, we do not have to worry and wonder when is somebody else going to come down and correct it. Absolutely, Raven. If we do not, I'm sitting here and I know I'm talking a little louder than some of you probably think I should be, but I listen to the people, the televangelists that stand up there and they scream at the TV. You've got to do what God says. If you don't do what God says, you're going to burn in hell. Right? We need that same kind of conviction of scrap what everybody else says. Start treating each other the way you desire to be treated. Start reaching out to help the people around you. Okay? Do not worry about whether or not they have, whether or not their skin color is different or they choose a different partner to crawl into bed with. Who they vote for, we'll deal with that later. Sometimes it really depends on, I fully admit I have made mistakes in who I voted for. Yeah, no doubt there, Joe, and that's the thing. You know what you're, and Joe's just saying, if I do decide to spend to have a fire, just to have a fire at home, a campfire, I've got to have enough wood for it. Okay. And because the reality is you're taking care of you. For me, I don't have a place to have a fire. You got no place in your house to have a fire. I don't have a place to have a fire, period. Although the neighbors next door at the apartment block 2 years ago had a really nice fire. Well, nice is probably the wrong word for it. They had a fire that took out a third of the apartment block. But using 0 point energy, using that knowledge that I've got, I actually had the fire marshal come to me. And he literally told me, he says, I've got quantifiable proof that what you said you were doing is what happened. He says, I feel it is necessary, that you're why the building didn't burn. But he says, I'll tell you, I'll be danged if I'm going to put it in my report. Okay. For me, it really boils down to, you get an idea in your head. You literally, that's what I call the dream board. Okay. Get the idea down. Like, for instance, we take this one here. Okay. Yeah, I have on this list. If you'll notice, I don't expect you to read it. I'm just referring to the coloring on it. It's written all the way to the bottom of the page. Okay. And then all the way to here. Now, those are all titles of different books I'm currently writing. Okay, and when I get done tonight, I'll be moving a bunch of them onto my desktop so I can find them and work on them easily. By the way, I'll be moving them onto the desktop and backing them up on a zip drive at the same time. I don't think you can see it. No, you really can't. I've got files up here that are just off site here that are all the paperwork that I've been doing with the writing. Okay. YJ goes, here I pay $600 for three measured cords delivered. I used to cut my own, but fibromyalgia just made it a bit difficult. Well, that's just it. That's what, it's funny, Raven. I was told by, I told a guy who was being forced essentially into retirement, right? Because my job collapsed. And he goes, oh, that's terrible. He says, what are you going to do? I says, I don't know yet. I said, I don't know what I'll do in my spare time. I'm writing 30 books simultaneously. And the guy's mouth hit the floor and he goes, He says, you do know, if you're writing 30 books simultaneously, it's not called retirement. Okay. I says, oh, I'm sorry. To me, this is multitasking. Okay. I don't do it a lot while I'm on these live streams. Except on Sunday, you guys have seen me do it a lot. Okay, where I'll be doing one thing, but it's normal for me to be writing one book, watching a movie, listening to music, and carrying on 2 or 3 different conversations. My only limit is I've only got 2 hands. But I'll tell you, the one thing that absolutely stunned me the other day, it's just been great. When I had a stroke, almost 4 years ago, I lost the ability to do the fine work with my left hand. Now, about 3 days ago, maybe 4, I finally managed to get the wiring rebuilt. Again, using 0-point energy, I was able to rewire my nerves. Now, the doctor said nerves cannot rewire to that point. I looked at him and I said, how about we don't discuss what can't happen? Because as of 4, I quit when I had the stroke. I had to quit playing on computer games. Now, it's not much of a jump, okay? It's not really that exciting of a thing for people. But I used to play Skyrim. I used to love it. When I had the stroke, I could no longer play anything because I didn't have the fine motor control. But about 3, maybe 4 days ago, I finally got the wiring done. I'm back playing Skyrim. Now, YJ, you and I are going to have to sit down and talk. Okay. Although, it's not a bad idea to do that as a topic either. There is a way where you can go through your mind and through your body. And yes, I know you've got fibromyalgia, and I know the doctors have said you're stuck with that for life. If we can help you understand that is a limit that you can overrun yourself in tandem with what the doctors are doing, we can absolutely turn things around and help you get back to a normal life. Okay, or what you consider normal. Now, of course, if you consider it normal to do like I've seen with a lot of people, oh, I'm miserable, I can't do anything, and, please, give me handouts. YJ, that's not you. I'm laying odds at the fact that you had to turn around and buy wood instead of being able to go out and cut it. I'm pretty certain that drives you right up the bend. The funny thing is, the reason, even if I had a property of my own, I'd never go out in the woods and cut it myself. Okay, not because I can't handle an axe, but because of the fact I go out in the woods, I turn around twice and I'm gone. I'm completely lost. I've got no idea where home is. Okay, so this is something that I've never been able to overcome. Okay, but I will tell you, if we start really pushing the limits on things and going, okay, let's take advantage of the fact that we have an internet. Let's drive the energy up so that instead of listening to people standing in front of a pulpit going, the world's ending, God's going to send you to hell, you're going to suffer famine and massive loss, and the world's going to be plunged into total war. If we can have people stand up and have millions of people listen to them, why can we not do the same thing and have the same numbers stand up and go, we've got this under control. We can actually change it and make this a better world for virtually everybody. This is just one of those neat things that we can do. Okay. Yeah, I ran into the same problem myself. I was locked up for almost 4 and 5 months, I guess. The second the ice hit here, I'm done walking. I don't go anywhere. And it wasn't until literally this year that it finally dawned on me, I live in an apartment block. I've got I guess probably a 500-foot walk on the main floor that I can do. Okay. See, it's 50. No, sorry, not 500. It'd be probably, where are we? 50 paces. So we're looking, yeah. So yeah, I guess it's about a 500-foot walk. And if I just pace back and forth, I can get my walking in. But unfortunately, I'm a slow learner. I've been here for 10 years and this just dawned on me this morning. Well, yesterday morning. Yeah, what doesn't make sense, Kimberly, is the amount of lumber that the amount of lumber and oil that Canada ships south of the border to have them processed is absolutely insane. All we would have to do is spend a couple of dollars, and within 2 years we would be making money hand over fist in our own country, and this applies to the states that ship so much over to China. Okay, you reinitialize the manufacturing plants and what have you in your own country, and all of a sudden the problem with the economy takes a turn for the better. Yeah, that's never made any sense to me there, YJ. Never made any sense at all. But hey, what the heck? From my standpoint, from my personal standpoint, 1 man hour is 1 man hour, or 1 woman hour, or 1 dog hour. I don't care. 1 hour of effort is 1 hour of effort. Not a problem there, Ken. Sad to say, we are just wrapping things up here. Okay, but I am glad you managed to pop in. The thing is, what I would like to see happen here is we really have to start driving the energy in this chat room up to really get the message out to people that working together, we can turn this world around. Okay, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. It just is going to take some effort, and we've got to start focusing on what we can do and the similarities between what people are. Now, with that in mind, if you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up, and absolutely subscribe to the channel. Please, even the people you don't like, share the channel with everybody, because it's going to take all of the people that we can get and that we can muster to turn this life around. Okay, you absolutely should, Joe. I thought you already had. Absolutely start documenting your own paranormal experiences, and for that matter, your own normal experiences. Okay, now we've hit the 2-hour mark here, guys. So I am going to bring this to a close. I will be back again tomorrow. And again, what are we looking at tomorrow? Yeah, that's an idea. Whoa. Can't reach that far because my arm isn't that long. Need another 2 feet on my arm to reach that. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the elementals, as in earth, fire, water elementals. And yes, I realize those of you that are pagan witches, you believe in earth, fire, water, and air. Okay, one of the big differences between us. But we'll cover that tomorrow. Where are we here? I agree with you, YJ. Now, that said, guys, I'm going to bring this to a close. I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.